This is Finextra at Cybos, and I'm here today talking to Luc Meurant of Swift. Luc, Swift last year announced that it was going to help banks by taking a utility approach to compliance and seeing what products it could deliver in this area. What progress has been made so far, and here at Cybos in particular?
Well, actually, much progress and much faster than anticipated, even according to my own expectations. Well, the concrete things that we have done is that we now have launched a service to screen transactions on behalf of users. The service is meant for small users, so we basically offer an opportunity for small users on Swift to say, listen, please can you help me screen my message? We do that real time, and when we see something which could be an issue, then we block the transaction. We come back to the small bank and ask that bank, what kind of transaction is it? Do you want to stop it or do you want to let it go? That service is live. We call it Sanctions screening for small users. And we already 50 users up and running. So clearly we've delivered upon that, but actually I think where we've been faster is that at the same time we've launched a new service, this time for large users, where the idea is not to do the screening for the large users, but more helping them test the effectiveness and efficiency of their filters. So we call that sanction testing and tuning, and that is a service that we know for large banks. So 2 services in less than a year, quite positive on that.
And what's the current scope for message types that can be screened using either of these approaches?
So typically we started with payment and trade messages, which are the most often screened messages. We plan on expanding that with securities and reporting messages as well. And importantly as well, we plan to beef up a bit the functionality of the screening engine in the sense that we will add additional public lists on the service. We will add as well the ability for users to add their own private list. We will go for non-fin messages, so the non-typical Swift message, and help them screen their file transactions as well. So, progressively, we will develop a much more sophisticated screening service. We do that, by the way, in partnership with Microsoft, so we have not reinvented the wheel. We are basically partnership with a best-in-class kind of provider.
One of the things being discussed at Cybos this year is the need for support for double byte characters for Asian languages. Is this in your roadmap for sanctions screening at all?
Well, good question. Huh? So at this stage it is true that most of the filtering happens on Latin characters, but there are other characters that we should look at. What we need for that is to understand a bit what the requirements are. Technically speaking, it's not that difficult, but we just need to get the right raw data to understand what to filter again. So there are many discussions ongoing. I'm very positive we'll come to some solution for that soon.
Luc, can you give me an update on Swift for Corporates, the number of corporates now on board, the services available, and also a reaction to the announcement from SAP about its corporate-to-bank connectivity network?
So Swift for Corporates remain a key priority for us, and we see the number of corporates growing very nicely. Actually, this week at Cybos, we reached the 1,000 milestone, so we now have 1,000 corporates connected. And to give you an idea of how significant that is, if you look at those corporates with more than 10 billion in turnover, actually 26% of them are up and running on Swift, so very significant market share. No, we are not going to stop there. We keep on embarking new corporates. So you mentioned this initiative from SAP. I looked at that as more something which is complementary to what Swift is doing as opposed to competing. I do believe that the large corporates will want to keep their independence versus the banks, but also versus the software providers. So I would expect them to be more interested in a Swift-based kind of value proposition. But if you look to the mid-market or even smaller corporates, there is a case to be made that a full automated package provided by a leading company makes a lot of sense. So I see that as complementary.
Was there anything on your Swift for Corporates roadmap that is now being addressed by the SAP initiative?
Well, the thing is that we always said that we would start with large corporates and over time expand that in the mid segments. Now, the needs of the mid segments are very different, right? So we believe that over time we could provide a solution to them, but it has to be absolutely well integrated in their back office solution, so kind of off-the-shelf solution. SAP provides that. Now what we hope is that SAP and the others, by the way, will do that leveraging Swift. If they do, great. If they don't, well, I can understand that they may be looking for the alternative solutions as well, and the world is big, right? So.
In trade finance, the rise of open account trade is likely to be accelerated by the new ICC bank payment obligation instrument. Can you tell me a little bit about the most recent developments for the ICC BPO?
I think it's a great opportunity. I would not be fully transparent if I were to tell you that it has been an easy journey. Honestly, this BPO that started actually under the name of the Trade Service Utility initially was a very difficult journey. It took us a lot of time to articulate what the value proposition was. And I think initially we meant this thing to be more of a purely bank-to-bank service, and we failed to explain that. Now, two things have happened over the last 2 years, I would say. Number one, we have spent much more time articulating the value proposition for the end users, the corporates, and that has helped tremendously. We know that a number of corporates very interested in that value proposition and asking their bank's partner to help them with this. And number two, possibly even more important, is the fact that we have really embraced the opportunity of the ICC, which is to me the legitimate body in that space. And we do expect full endorsement by the ICC early next year. That will make a big difference because by then the BPO would become as legitimate as the letter of credit. And that opens a huge field of opportunity. Just to give you an idea of the size of the opportunity, today when you look at global trade, 90% of that is on open account, 10% on traditional trade instruments. The BPO is an opportunity for banks to offer something much more compelling as a value proposition in the open account space. So on a 90% of transactions that today are basically not well served by banking services. So great opportunity for banks and I think for corporates as well.